Taku pātai tuatai, how do you follow that? My God, I think next time that we have a hui, if I see Timothy's name there, I'll be asking if I can speak either the next day, or at least before kia koe, e te rangatira nei rā te mihatsu mō kupu. E aku ti, aku tā, e aku rangatira tēnei te mihi mai o hamutunga kore kia koutou, kua ka Raui ka nei, raru i te maru o tēnei o tātou nei whare. Kia koutou e ngā māngai, e ngā kaimahi o te waipaunamu, he humari e tēnei huhua e tae ki te tū ki mua i a koutou ki te toha e nei kōrero. It is without a shroud of a doubt a privilege, pleasure and honour to be here with you this morning, to be a part of the kōrero as we look forward to the future, as we gaze upon the stars in front of us, as we look to the horizon. And so it is my humble pleasure to be here with you today. Ki te tāo tōku māma, huri tēnei no te nota, no te taitoki rau, no te whare tapu o Ngāpui, no te raroa, ki te tāo tōku pāpā no ngā kuki airani no Aitutaki. So it is, on my mum's side, a proud descendant of the far north and of Waikato, born and bred in Tokoroa hard. Must be a thing with Tokoroa, eh? I think the saying goes that high pressure or extreme pressure creates diamonds. Ko Tamatha tēnei, he rock tonu, e tū ana ki runga i te atamira. So my mum is of the far north and my dad is of further north from the Cook Islands. So that makes me a very proud half a kumara, half a coconut. So hashtag kumanut and proud and happy to be here. I'm with you, my whānau from Otautahi, my whānau from Te Waipaunamu today. And I thought what better than to come here and as opposed to provide a PowerPoint presentation as we look through Rangahau, I'll leave that to you as our professionals. And I, following the leadership of our wahine toa who spoke before me, would share more of a personal journey. And I think Tamatha touched on what's really important in two different aspects, but creating one. The first is the importance of intergenerational change. And understanding that we as a people, as Māori, as Pasifika people, are overcoming quite an unfortunate history. But we should be proud of where we are today and continue to look forwards and pursue the moemoeā of our tupuna, to pursue the moemoeā of where we are today. And the second being the importance of having a village around you. I grew up with the understanding that it takes a village to raise a child, and that was spoken to extremely well just before me. At the end of the day, I stand here not because of my achievements, but because of the achievements of those who are around me, who have created the person that I am proud to be to this point. So I thought nothing better than to walk you through a bit of my life that's introduced me to some pretty crazy people, that has exposed me to some pretty amazing experiences. But before I get underway, I know our rangatahi are sitting at the back there. Taku wero kia koutou, my challenge to you is to, by the end of this kōrero, by the end of this conference, to be sitting up the front. At the end of the day, you're a part of this space. And there are a lot of our peers, a lot of our hoa that aren't. At the end of the day, our mahi is for those who aren't in these four walls. It is our duty, it is our job to represent them. So don't feel whakamā. Don't feel shy to sit amongst our pakeke. Learn off them and sometimes teach them a little something along the way. But I challenge you that by the end of the hui, join the seats in the front. Be present, be participative of the kōrero. Don't be afraid to share your voice, because it's for the well-being of not only yourself, not only your whānau, but for our whānau puta noa i Aotearoa. So, with that being said, this half a kumara, half a coconut story starts as a year 7 child at Taipa Area School in the far north. And I remember every day, my mates, 2 of my best mates, were always late to class. And so I stopped them one day and I asked them why. And the reason they gave me changed my life forever. I said, bro, why are you always late to form time? It's like, because you're always at form time. I was like, yes, that's what you do. You attend form time, we're at school. And he was like, no, you don't get it, bro. And I was like, what is it? And he said, while you're at form time, all of the kaiako, all of the teachers are there. It's the easiest time for us to sell drugs and alcohol in school. And I was thinking, well, Panadol and all of that's not illegal. We can get that from the health clinic, being the child that I was. And then I came to realise that at the tender age, or at the young age of 12 or 13, two of my best mates were selling anything from methamphetamine to pee to other students, to other whanaunga. And that didn't sit right with myself, with my whānau. And so we decided to bring the boys together. We said, hey, we've got a plan. We found ourselves a kaiako who took time out of her busy life to teach us the game that we call our life saviour, but the game of chess. And if you've ever seen the Dark Horse story, it's our story to a T. And we were together when we watched that, and it was truly a walk down memory lane. And it gave us a chance to reflect on where we had come from and what that taught us. Because for the first time, someone had introduced us to something that we didn't think was part of being Māori. See, we had a running joke in school that the only time we'd see a famous Māori person on TV was when we would watch Police 10-7. And we'd wait, the top 3 or 4 most wanted would come up at the end of the show. And they would tell Uncle we saw him on the TV on the weekend when we went over for kai. And that was the reality of what we were exposed to as young people. When we were looking for Māori role modelship, that's all we saw. We believed in ourselves that the only thing we could do as Māori was to choose a patch at the end of high school, was to get familiar with the social service, with the WINS line. That was our reality. And so when our kaiako sat us down and she taught us about chess, and she taught us that we could do anything that we believed in, our whole mindset changed. And so we taught ourselves how to play chess, and then about a month later we found ourselves fundraising, because we're going down to Whangarei. So if you've never been up to the far north, up to Taipa, you may or may not know Kaitaia. If you don't know Kaitaia, Whangarei. If you don't know Whangarei, Auckland, 4 hours north. Kabai. And so we grew up around Kaitaia, and that was 2 hours from Whangarei. And for 2 of the 4 of us who played in this chess team, it was the first time they had gone further than 30 kilometres from our kāinga, from our community. Literally, there's no hospital in Taipa, but 2 of my mates were born there. They just... So, for us, it was the first time we had been exposed to outside opportunity. For the first time, we had people supporting us and telling us something a little different. We were no longer being told that we couldn't achieve because we were Māori. We no longer thought that we couldn't do our schoolwork because it's not who we are. But we were exposed to someone who told us that we could do this. And so we fundraised. We sold seafood chowder and fried bread, as you do when you're fundraising. We ate more of it than we sold. So we had to ask Nan and Papa for money anyway. But we found ourselves in a van on the way to Whangarei. We walked into this fancy building that we now know is called a town hall. The doors opened on their own and we were like, wow, we here. Not because they opened on their own, but because there were doors. Nah. And we walked through them. One of my mates had a boombox. It ran off tapes. It was battery powered, ran off tapes. Our rangatahi, if you don't know what tape or a boombox is, plenty of support up the front. Nah. And we were rocking through, as you do, as 4 Māori boys, socks and jandals, hoodies on, to Bob Marley. And before I could say anything, everyone stopped and stared at us. My mate had put down his boombox, he rolled up his sleeves and was getting ready to have a fight. And I was like, whoa, bro, what happened? And he was like, bro, they're staring at me, man. They're staring. I was like, we kind of walked through the front door, man. Happens. And he was like, nah, bro, I think they want to steal my stuff. I was like, bro, you're wearing socks and jandals. I think they're probably a little worried you're going to steal their stuff. And it's like, yeah, because I am. I was like, no, you're not. That's not the thing. But for 4 Māori boys who could barely sit still in class for 15 minutes, we sat there for 6 hours and we played 6 hours of chess that day. We consider that our greatest achievement. And then something crazy happened. See, in order to make it to the finals, 2 of the 4 of your team members had to win your pools. 4 members to a team, 4 pools throughout the duration of the day. And I found myself on the finals table. And I couldn't see who I was going to play. They had a curtain in front of me. I couldn't see the other two because there was a curtain next to me. And before I could say anything, they raised that curtain, and sitting opposite me was my best mate. They raised the curtain to our right. Sitting next to us were our other two team members, our other two brothers. And as you can imagine, that was the most competitive game of chess we have ever played. Because we all agreed that we didn't mind losing to people that we didn't know. But I wasn't going to lose to my best mate. And if you ever meet any of them, I won. That's the story we're going to go with. So we found ourselves on a stage similar to this, and the funniest moment in my life happened. And I love sharing these because it gives you insight into who we were, how we grew up. My mate started nudging me after the announcer said, all right, boys, you're going to have to fundraise, you're going to represent Taitokoro, you're going to represent Northland at the National Chess Tournament in Christchurch in the South Island of New Zealand. My bro started nudging me. I was like, bro, everyone's staring at us. We're getting awards. What is so important that you're going to start nudging me right now? And he's like, bro, I've got a serious question. I was like, bro, if you need to go wharepaku, don't need to ask, brother. There they are over there. And he's like, no, bro, question. I was like, what is it? And he said, brother, does New Zealand have a South Island? And to me, reality hit. See, growing up, I call it a privilege. I've had the privilege of saying that I grew up homeless. For 5 or 6 years, myself, my 3 younger siblings, my mum and dad, and we didn't have much. I've lived everywhere from our own vehicle to the side of the street, to living in shacks that would look like they had just been built out of scraps. And one of my favourite whare, and actually probably the one I'm most comfortable in even to this day, probably would have been the bus that Dad turned from an old scrap heap into a whare for us. And for me, that was a reality check. That actually, we as Māori, as Pasifika growing up, are more than capable than what we've been exposed to as young tauira. And so that was not only the funniest moment of my life, but one of the most important, one of the most impactful to me. See, I was never of the opinion that growing up, all I could be was a gang member. That was a lot of my peers. I was thankful because regardless of what we may or may not have had materialistically, Mum and Dad always told me that I could be whatever I believed in. They were always supportive. And when we touched on this idea of it takes a village to raise a child, I was surrounded by people who fortunately, for me, believed in me. And unfortunately, in this day and age, something that our rangatahi are lacking. And so for us, that moment opened our eyes. We fundraised some more, we came down here to Otautahi. We lost every single game we played. We lost every single game we played. And when we reflected on that, we were quite upset, as you can imagine. 16 games per person, 32 to a pair, 64 as a whole. And we didn't win one of them. And we were upset not because we lost every game, but because while we were undertaking something that seemed like it was outside of who we are as Māori, the people around us who didn't quite understand at the time told us we could never do it. Our friends, family members, whose words put us off trying to give it a go and giving it our all. And then our teacher sat down with us and she left us with what we now consider the 3 keys to success. And when I have the privilege of talking, especially with our rangatahi, what I love to give to them. The first and foremost is the importance of being optimistic, of encouraging our people, especially our rangatahi, to go beyond the confines of what it stereotypically means to be Māori, to encourage them to break down those barriers, that it does not mean if it's never been done before, if it's impossible, that we can't take the I-M from the front of that word. Then we move into this idea of failure. See, our young people have been exposed to a constant world of perfection. We look at social media, we look at the icons around the world, and they're perfect every day. when we know in reality that's not reality. That everyone, every single one of us have had our trials, have had our tribulations. And so the second point being to encourage our young people that mistakes are okay. The only time a mistake becomes a failure is when you don't learn from it. And that leads into the final and the most important to me, and I'm privileged that it's been mentioned before myself, and that's the importance and the power of self-belief. An old friend of us as Te Ao Māori, who unfortunately seems to have gone a bit titaha. Someone we have lost contact with, the idea of instilling belief into our young people so that they pursue their dreams regardless of what that dream is. As it was mentioned before, we have this massive taniwha, this massive problem within ourselves as Te Ao Māori, is that when we hear our whanaunga aspiring to do something different, we always gun them down. We always say, why would you want to do that? There's no use doing that. No, we don't even give it a go. You can't do it. We have a massive, when we're looking at the tall poppy syndrome here in Aotearoa. And so for us, that left us with 3 things that we could hold on to moving forward. 3 practical tools that we could practice as rangatahi Māori. At the time, 2 of my mates were prospecting to be members of the Black Power. Now, one is over in Australia. He aspires to be a marine biologist. I don't even think he can spell marine biologist. But he has this affinity, this love for our moana and its sustainability. One of my hoa, he's moved down he's here in the South Island. I was going to say moved down to the South Island. He's here in the South Island. He loves big engines, big vehicles. He wants to be a truck driver. See, now, if you say that at school, a lot of people are saying, well, that's probably all you could be. And that was the reality of the words that we heard. But he wants to be a truck driver, and he vows that one day he's going to own the biggest trucking company here in Aotearoa. My best mate is in his 4th year at medicine at Otago University. See, if we were to go back in time and tell ourselves that we were going to be where we are today, we never would have believed it. But my wero to you, and I think I'm preaching to the converted when I say this, my wero to you as our pakeke is to show us those imperfections, to show us that it's okay to make mistakes, and to show us why it's important to believe in our kaupapa, regardless of what those are. So now, obviously, I've had some pretty crazy experiences, but they're not all mine. They're not all my achievements. In fact, the greatest achievement I say for myself is being the first in my whānau to attend university, being the first to graduate. I graduate in 2 weeks' time. And to me, that's important because we're looking at... There we go. To me, it is one big step towards that goal of intergenerational change. To undoing a mindset that has been embedded in our people over generations, to a mindset that allows them to flourish in who they believe they can be and who we inherently are. I love this idea of social enterprise, this idea of entrepreneurship. And see, when we're talking about te ao Pākehī, it's an unfamiliar term to a lot of our rangatahi. And so I play around with this whakaaro of hautututanga. Because quite often when we growl my younger siblings, or when I've been growled for being a haututu, it's this idea of being naughty. But when we look at it in the broader scope of things, all of our tupuna have been. We only need to look at Maui for that. We only need to look at the Te Tiriti o Waitangi. We only need to look at the fact that we are the only indigenous culture in the world to have Māori seats, or to have indigenous seats in decision-making positions. Hautututanga, or this idea of being innovative, this idea of being creative for the well-being, and this is the beauty of Te Ao Māori, is not only our well-being, but for the well-being of the people around us, regardless of their backgrounds. So I encourage you to encourage our young people, consistently reinforce them with the idea of giving you things a go. For example, making sure you're in the front seats by the end of the conference, to making mistakes and understanding that that's okay, and to believe in your dream, your aspirations, regardless of what they are. For me, I've always said that one day I want to be one of the first, if not the first one, of the Māori Prime Ministers of Aotearoa. That's the dream. And if I had said that a few years ago, some people may have laughed and some people may have put it down. But the beauty of the 21st century, of the age that we live in, is that anything is possible. So continue to reinforce that amongst our young people. I thank you for having me today. Next time, please don't put me after Tamitha. But again, continue to be amazing. And I agree, our kaiako, and I see you as kaiako, are completely underrated. They are the one occupation that I aspire to give the same amount of mai aroha to our rangatahi, because as you know, our kaiako are there with our rangatahi 24/7 for a big part of their lives. Continue to be amazing. Tēnā koutou, mauri ora, kia tātou.